So I just got out of Captain Marvel. So non-spoilery, I really enjoyed it. I freaking loved that film. That was really, really good. And Goose is best boy. I don't know what to say, I'll be honest, because I've not been having a good time recently. And last night and this morning I was incredibly rough for reasons I cannot get into. I've also been having some family health issues. My own health hasn't been great. I pulled some muscles at the zoo again, crouching up and down with kids dressed up as Mario, and my legs are freaking killing me. So I think cathartic wise, I really needed that film. I laughed, I cried, I was smiling. To say it was a little bit predictable isn't saying much because, well, you know, being knowledgeable of cartoons and being knowledgeable of comic books and, you know, Marvel tropes and storylines and knowing how movies are constructed, yeah, you kind of can see things coming a mile away, but at the same time, I like the way they told the narrative act. The narrative structure itself, I thought, was really, really well done. That could have been well and truly poorly handled, but I think Marvel, they've got it down pat. These are the guys that could make a movie about a talking raccoon and his tree friend. What can you expect of this? Having be the 90s was a really good touch, I must admit. I love the banter between Fury and Danvers. I really can't wait to see another one of these. I really hope Sam Jackson sticks around after Endgame. I don't think it's going to be spoilers because, well, there's no real spoilers for Endgame, but of course they're going to undo the click. I mean, that's not really open to debate, realistically speaking. Let's be brutally honest. They're not just going to bring back, you know, the Avengers that are going to have movies. You know, there's going to be something. There's going to be some consequences, but I think, you know, maybe the deaths that occurred outside of the click are probably going to stick, but the click itself I think is going to get undone. But that's just knowing media and stuff like that. Plus also in the original Infinity Gauntlet comic series, which they're basing this off, that's it, the click happened and the click gets unhappened. I really genuinely hope they follow the story to how Thanos kind of gets defeated. I'm not going to spoil that because I think that's fun enough by itself, especially when in the past when I've seen people go, what was it? It was you got $10 and you must build a team to defeat Thanos, and I only choose the one character that was worth $1. Yes, I've read the story. One guy was like, oh, how can you say that? I'm like, I've read the fucking story. Remember what I said about Fake Geek, guys? As much as I really want to just keep talking about Captain Marvel, I'll be honest, I've not really read much of the Captain Marvel. Well, I actually read much of the Captain Marvel comics in the entirety, not even with the original Marvel. I read a bit of when it was his son took over. I probably read the most I've read of Captain Marvel when Monica Rambeau, the little girl in the movie, was Captain Marvel in the 80s before she became Photon. She was actually the leader of the Avengers at one point, I believe. So long ago since I've read all those comics. So yeah, actually that's the thing that always I find quite amusing, is that people go on about how, Captain Marvel's not a woman. There's been 3 women as Captain Marvel in the Marvel Universe. There was Monique Rambeau, Captain Marvel's daughter, Fila I think it's Fila Vale. She was part of the Guardians of the Galaxy, the team that would eventually get turned into the movie in the early 2000s. And then, of course, Carol Danvers. I mean, Danvers was a part of the Captain Marvel lore from the beginning, but she became Miss Marvel, I think, 5 years or something after she was introduced, and she got the powers. Carol has kind of been... How can I put this? For a few decades, Carol has been the butt monkey in Marvel Universe, has been the butt monkey. She has never really been taken seriously for the most part, maybe except for her first solo series. She had her powers taken off her by Rogue. Remember, Rogue was originally a villain, and her power is only absorption. So the flight and strength stuff is actually what she absorbed out of Carol, but the conceit is that, you know, Carol's powers are so, because they're alien, and that's what fucked up Rogue, and that's what put Carol in a coma, and then eventually she came out of the coma, and then there's Avengers 200, which is a whole lot of wow. It's no wonder that Carol basically went through several decades of constantly changing her nickname, her powers changing, and she was a raving alcoholic. In many ways worse than Tony. And finally they went, we're going to give you, someone's going to ride her right, and gave her the Captain Marvel title, which, to be frank, she really probably deserved. So they pretty much started the character, I believe he debuted in 1968 or something like that. The character itself, I don't think he was a huge hit, but they basically kept running the character until the 80s when they wanted to kill the character off. But instead of just being like, what would be like the cynical 90s way of killing off a character, they actually had Captain Marvel die of cancer. He absorbed all this like radiation, trying to save a planet or something. I can't remember. I haven't read it in so long. And that's like the beginning of this like 3 or 4 limited series arc. And it was that basically the rest of the book was people, trying to save Captain Marvel, going through all the science, going through the Kree technology and all that type of stuff, trying to save him. It of course got to the point where it's like, they couldn't save Captain Marvel. And the last issue, it was basically about the heroes coming together to mourn this fallen hero. Even like Thanos turns up and to mourn his enemy. It wasn't people, at least in universe, had this like respect for Captain Marvel. I would hate to say it, that the comics industry has more respect for Captain Marvel via his death than they had during his life. And for years, Captain Marvel himself was one of the 3 deaths that Marvel would never reverse. By the way, they reversed all 3, technically. The 3 are, of course, Captain Marvel, Bucky, and Uncle Ben. And Bucky's the only one who's still around as Winter Soldier, because that was a really good way of redoing that character. And so that's bringing this back to the movie. I like that they kind of kept with a bit of Carol's stubbornness in regards to, how people are treated her. And I think it's really kind of cool how they've, being a retro film, they've kind of hinted at the deep misogyny within like the armed forces. That's not really a spoiler, that's literally history at this point. I love the relationship and the rapport between her and Fury. I want to see a bloody Captain Marvel Nick Fury buddy cop film. That would be amazing. Larson and Jackson just bounce off each other so damn well. That was one of the things I'd love to go back and just to watch all that. But I hope they come back to that at some point. I mean, I don't know if they've announced there's going to be a 2 or 3 Captain Marvel. I really want them to revisit these characters again. I mean, it's obviously, you can't have a 90s Captain Marvel movie, but if you can get a Winter Soldier level kind of story for Captain Marvel 2, that would be brilliant. Everyone keeps comparing it to Doctor Strange. I really don't get it, because I like Doctor Strange. I think Doctor Strange was probably the most marvelous movie in regards to screenplay and plot progression. I enjoyed it, but I do think its clichéness in the Marvel movies was showing very, very solidly in that. Same with kind of the first Ant-Man movie. I think Ant-Man Wasp really diverged away from that a little bit, but still kind of kept that formula. I don't find I have the same issue with Captain Marvel. That could just be how the plot progression worked. I don't know. I was kind of half expecting this movie to be half told in flashback, which I'm really glad I didn't, because that seemed to be the indication what people kept talking about. It's like, there's things I want to talk about in this movie that's very spoilerific, and I can't. And God, the reasons I want to go and see this, because I'm getting sick and tired of going on social media and seeing, how about that moment in Captain Marvel? And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. The whole Goose being it's not so much a spoiler, because it was like that in the comic. About Goose being a Flurfkin, that's literally comics knowledge. So it's like, yeah, that's not really spoilery, but how he is utilized in the movie is phenomenal. I watched it in 3D, and for the most part, it was I quite liked it in 3D. It's not a movie I'd probably watch again in 3D. For the most part, I thought CGI was really good. I mean, it's just your standard Hollywood fare. The only point where it really dropped me out of the suspension of disbelief is when they had a CGI Carol. There's just a couple of shots where it was a bit not good. And then some other shots which are not too bad. That's the only CGI I was really not impressed with, was some of the CGI Carol stuff, which is in the later part of the movie. I actually really like how they presented her powers and how they evolved that character throughout. It's a really good character progression journey if you want to consider those things. But the inner core of Carol is kind of there from the beginning. She's a very strong, opinionated person that's portrayed like that right from the beginning. She's still that, but how she explores herself throughout the movie I thought was really good. And it was really well done. It was not one of those, not a movie about self-discovery, but it ends up being about that. Oh, God damn it, I can't say too much about more spoilers. I mean, it's only been out for less than a week, so I don't really want to get too bogged into that. I would recommend this movie. I would recommend this especially to anyone. The one topic I will bring up is the whole issue of female empowerment, because I think this movie does it better than a movie I'm definitely not going to mention on here, which people bitch and moan about the female empowerment, which I thought was actually terribly handled. You could probably figure it out if you know what movies I tend to bitch and moan about. And no, it's not Man of Steel. But I think this movie does the female empowerment angle brilliantly. Without getting spoilerish, Carol is a very self-determined character. Let's be honest, the man babies are probably right. It's a movie where throughout this entire film, the man kind of tried to drag her down. It seems like the only person, or at least the only person who stops trying to do that is Fury. It'd be too cynical to say only because he really realizes that he's out of his depth. But I think Fury kind of recognizes her for the warrior she kind of is, and that she is an asset. And even then, he still kind of screws it up. Really brilliant scene. And that's what I mean about the chemistry I like between Fury and that. He's a guy who he's basically kind of been proven wrong, and instead of doubling down and digging his heels, goes, no, I'm right. The world is exactly like this. He's like, no, okay, this is what, I'm having to deal with these shape-shifting aliens. All right, what are we going to do to stop this? And that was brilliant. I mean, Carol herself doesn't have all the answers, which is also brilliant. That's part of the, the discovery aspect of this movie. It's not just, I am one person, I have all the answers. It was not a Mary Sue. It was someone who knew how to write a character wrote this film, and it was directed pretty damn well. I mean, couldn't see anything really out of place directorial-wise. I mean, it was directed like a Marvel film. It's sad to say when it's base level competent, but I actually really enjoyed it, and it really could have been easily a movie that could have been exploitative in regards to sexing up this character. And I actually like the fact that she was just a person. There's a bit of the sexist trope stuff in there. Ultimately, it was Carol just she had a goal, she had a mission, and she went forth and did it. That's the kind of empowerment I like. It's not a matter of, someone there screaming at the camera that they have the power. It's like the great quote, if you have to walk into the room and tell everyone you're the king, you don't deserve to be the king. That's a sly dig at the other female empowerment movie we're all thinking about. If you enjoyed this vlog, however clumsily filmed it is, please click like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell down below if you want notifications when I upload. If you have any comments, please leave them below. If you're a whinging internet man baby, you can click those comments into a garbage pail and then stick yourself in there. If you hated this movie before you even watched it, you don't deserve to watch good films. It's not the best film ever made. It's certainly not the freaking worst. So until next time,